Let me get this straight. You made me drive all the way over just to tell me that you're not taking the case anymore. And you can't even look me in the eye and tell me whether he did it or not. There's something you're not telling me.
Oh, stop.
There's something you're not telling me. There's something you're not telling me.
Hey. No, you gotta go.
Why?
You know why.
I'm not going until
No! It's over!
Today's guest is Rhea, a South Asian American actress, director, model, belly dancer, and public speaker passionate about using storytelling to challenge perceptions and expand representation. Through her work, she explores lived experiences of the Desi community, often through the lens of horror. Her upcoming projects include a Dune-inspired cinematic piece and a psychological thriller exploring liminal spaces. Beyond the screen, Rhea is a dedicated advocate for South Asian women and creatives using both her art and her voice to help create a more inclusive future. Rhea, it's time to put the spotlight on you. Lights out. Okay, so when you think back to your younger self, what stands out the most?
Yeah, I think like since a really young age, I've always just been drawn to the creative side of me. Like I knew that I just wanted to be on a stage, even though in the beginning I struggled like intensely with stage fright. But there was just something that was like also just like drawing me and like compelling me to want to perform in front of audiences. And I also really had a thing for pattern detection. So how it kind of like all started with like my journey with the arts, I would mess around with different like keyboard combinations with music, and I would just do things in a very like particular way. And that's kind of just like what got me really into it, like using music to kind of express myself and just that emphasis on patterns and being really analytical. And over time, it's like that memory is ended up becoming like one of my biggest skills and strengths. And that ended up translating really effectively to acting because so much of it is pattern detection, like being able to read people and kind of adapt to like different environments. So I feel like there's a lot of like parallels there, but I think that's something that definitely really stood out about my childhood.
Mhm. It's really cool that you have such a unique approach to your acting path, but the arts in general, to say that you're using pattern recognition. It's such a unique way to frame your approach to your work. And I love that. I love that there is this intelligence, this analytical side, this analysis of
Yeah.
the creation that you're putting out there. I think it's such a wonderful exploration of your gifts. Can you talk a little bit more about having stage fright and then pushing yourself to get out of that? That's, first of all, I want to congratulate you on that. It is so hard to overcome our mind. So how did you do that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So at a very young age, I first got enrolled in classical Hindustani singing lessons. So my mom like put me in those classes, and eventually I got to a point where I essentially performed my own solo recital in front of like a really, really big crowd. And so just being able to sing like in a completely different language, like that already was a big step for me. And it kind of just like took off from there, like just found me in many different forms. So I was always someone that, even though like something was definitely outside my comfort zone and very challenging, I was always just willing to take that on. So when I moved to Florida from Oregon, and being in a completely different high school environment, I really just threw myself out there at any opportunity I could find. So I joined theater, and it was my senior year of high school, and there was this big event called like a Disney cabaret, so like performing a song from like a Disney movie. So I just like went for it one day and I auditioned and I wanted to sing Let It Go. And the thing is, I'm an alto. So I have like a naturally deeper voice, but I just like wanted to do something that was hard to say that I can do that. Like that's just something about who I am. It's integral to my identity is I just don't want to do something that is too comfortable for me. Or I don't want to take the safest option because I feel like truly the times that you're really challenged and stretched and you learn and grow a lot, it's when you take these challenges. So I ended up singing Let It Go in front of a very big crowd of people, and I ended up getting a lot of, yeah, like praise after that performance because I kind of just put my all into it. And even though like there were times where, yeah, my voice did crack a little bit, I think it just really shows that I'm not afraid to take on something that is outside my comfort zone. Like for me, it's really about getting from point A to point B and the journey in between that. So that really was the most effective way of getting over like my stage fright. Like I think I will always like have that anticipation anxiety before, but there's something about like the power of just being on the stage and feeling the energy from a crowd and that momentum. Like physically just hearing it and just seeing that encouragement all around you that I just lock in. And I'm like, there's nothing I could do about it. And all I can do is just put on the best performance that I can in these circumstances. And it almost in a way like fuels the energy behind what I do.
It makes me emotional in a way, thinking about like, obviously, I haven't seen all your baby pictures in your family life, but to just imagine a smaller version of you overcoming being afraid. And I too have struggled with stage fright, especially when it's come to using my voice in the light of singing. And it is so much doubt and lies sometimes that we believe about what we can and cannot do. And I think it's very powerful that you're able to speak to yourself and say, you may be feeling this way, but you want to do this. So go
Yeah,
do it.
it's like that contrast. Yeah, it's like that voice is telling you, but then you end up surprising yourself, honestly. Like there's a lot that like we have the potential to do.
Yeah. And you mentioned, okay, so walk me through where you were born and raised, and then you're
Oh
on
yeah,
one side of the world, and then boom, like what's going on there?
yeah, so I was born and raised in Portland, Oregon. So I lived there for like 17 years. And then I moved to Naples, Florida. And then when I went to college, upstate New York, Rochester, New York specifically. So very different change. Like it's like almost like geographical corners. And then I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina. So it's just like at this point, because of all these different environments, like I think I've just really grown as a person. I think I needed that like also fresh start to kind of build this new identity from being in Portland, Oregon.
Did you go off and study the arts in college, or what made you do the moves?
So no, I actually studied business analytics, so completely different.
Okay.
But I've always had a love for performing arts. Like I took acting classes, just fell even more in love with it, and I became involved in more like larger scale productions, like college productions. And then now like being out of college and being like in my young 20s, it's like I have all this autonomy and like freedom to do what I want. And I think it really just got to me that like, yeah, this is acting is really what I see myself doing, like definitely going all in down the road. Like I think like it's not even just about just the idea of acting, it's that I want to be able to like direct and create my own art that is able to resonate with people, especially people that look like me. I think that's just so important, being able to tell these narratives about what it means to be South Asian American. Like I think like South Asian Americans haven't truly like really made their mark in entertainment, and I want to be one of
I promised the client that we would have this ready by tomorrow. So hands on keypads. Work till 5, and the water is yours.
I love that you already are doing that. There's two things that come up for me. I am so enjoying hearing that you do have your business background because sometimes as actors who want a career, they don't understand that your career still has a lot to do with finances and
The second
strategy.
you make it a business, it's like you're the product
Yeah.
essentially. And you need to be able to pitch yourself to casting directors, come up with an elevator pitch and refine that, package that in a way that's desirable to talent managers, just honestly like actors that you end up meeting down the road. So it's a really valuable skill. Like in a way, I feel like that's kind of been like my superpower is like drawing from those both those perspectives of business, but then also with acting, like applying that creative outlet to also like what I do. So for sure, I think they go really hand in hand, and there's a lot of parallels between both business and acting for sure.
Yeah, and on the other side, culturally, I'd love for you to talk more about what you see represented now and what is true about it, what's not true, and what do you want to change?
Hmm, that's a great question. Yeah, I just feel like I haven't really seen representation of just like again like being a South Asian American like adolescents. Like I'm really thinking about like when I was younger, like what were the types of shows and movies that were representing me, and it was more surface level, or it was something that was more tailored to a specific crowd of people, but it wasn't something that really spoke to me. It didn't really feel like my experience, because I think the truth is, me being like Indian American, that's its own culture that I think I really haven't seen that perspective like really dived into, where it's like sometimes I feel like I'm not Indian enough because I have this like disconnect where I don't speak the language. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, like I also stand out because of like who I am and my cultural identity. So it's just like it's like a hybrid of like different cultures, and I think like I just haven't really seen that type of like art and that medium that covers my experience in a very authentic, truthful way. Which is why like coming across Jordan Peele's work, like from Get Out to Us to Nope, like that really kind of inspired me, because he essentially took a genre like horror and he essentially transformed it into telling what it means to be Black American. Like that's something that he does so strategically, and it also has an impact. Like in the movie Us, it's all about how I kind of interpret it as cultural conformity. And I think like he really shows that through such a distinct perspective through horror and social commentary and satire. And that's something that I would love to see among South Asian Americans and South Asian American creatives, especially. Like, what would that look like for horror? So that's something that kind of like sparked that idea, which is why I gravitate towards that genre, because there's a lot of like parallels in horror with actually comedy, because it's all about exaggerations, like a hyperbole of an experience, and showing that through a very unique format. Yeah.
Yeah, if you could name as an example an experience that you have personally had that you're like, man, why isn't that on screen yet? Can you think of anything?
I think it's just kind of like that duality, like I was saying, where it's like I sometimes feel like simultaneously like I'm not Indian enough, because of like that disconnected language. And that's something I've like really thought about really deeply, is kind of the erasure of language. where the only reason that it's kind of held on is because of being passed on from generation to generation. But as we're seeing like a rise in like immigration, what's going to happen to the language, especially if I didn't grow up learning it? That's a genuine thought that I sometimes have, is like, what am I really clinging to with my within my culture? Like, what do I kind of have to look forward to whenever I visit India? You know? So it's like it's sort of like that isolation sometimes that I feel where like I'm not fully there, but at the same time, like there is something like fundamentally like, ethnically, different about me that stands out. And it's like I want to preserve that culture, but at the same time, it's like, what exactly am I preserving? So it's a really, really interesting duality that I haven't quite seen in a way that's personally resonated.
When you broke that down, I definitely could see that being explored through a work thematically and making people ask themselves that question, because sometimes just seeing a film and they're not telling you what to believe, what to think, but they're encouraging you to think about culture, about where you're from, about language, about the things that you're naming. I just think that's extremely powerful. And I love that you have different mediums of storytelling. So, as you stepped into different creative spaces, when did you realize that your lived experiences and perspective were something you wanted to actually bring to the stories? And was it when you were in high school? Was it just when was that breakthrough moment that you said, I'm going to pursue this professionally?
Yeah, I think it was just, over time, like kind of just realizing like I always felt like I kind of like stood out, like I was always more unconventional. Like I didn't really fit that like perfect mold of people that look like me, because I think I just always had this really deep connection to the arts. And it was hard to just really connect with people that look like me, but also want to follow those similar passions. So when I joined theater, like being like the few like brown people like that started to really hit me that wow, like I may really be the first. And if I don't see someone that looks like me on the screen, then I might have to be the one to create that story in the hopes that it's going to resonate with someone else. So that's something that really hit me, is I really think that in the community, like there's so many creatives out there, but it's almost like suppressed because it's just something that is just by society like told as it's risky. It's not worth like pursuing. But I really do think like, what if it was, like what if people really committed to what they loved doing, like where would that story and that narrative change? Something that I really think about a lot.
That's so good. And speaking of taking on that call, creating what you don't see, let's talk about what you've been creating. Let's highlight. So, can you tell us more about the different projects that you've been doing, everything that you've been pursuing?
Like alongside acting, I've also like always kind of like saw myself in a directing role too. Like I said, like I want to create the stories I want to see on screen. So I decided to pitch the idea with a friend from an acting class, and we both are currently in pre-production for a short film that we're going to be co-directing, the film about liminal spaces. And that's something that, yeah, it's a very like personally fulfilling project, because it was something that we really took the time, like making sure like as a team that we're like able to like have the same vision, but also it really needs to draw from a personal and vulnerable place for that inspiration. So that's something that's like really important to me, is when we eventually like cast actors for the roles, is we want everyone to have an important piece in the story. Like for me, like I know that like feeling of kind of just being like in the background and there being all these like bigger roles. And for me, what's really important is that everyone has something equal to offer to the table. So whatever role like people get, it's going to be something that they have a significant character arc and something to play to the story. So it's like an ensemble piece in a sense. Like that's something that I want. Everyone is like a main character because sometimes like I've had that feeling of like I don't feel like I am. Like I feel like I'm kind of just buried in the background and overlooked. So I really kind of made that a point that I want anyone who's part of this production to have something more to offer. And then the other project is a Dune-inspired cinematic piece. And that really just kind of came like on the fly. I love the Dune movies a lot. I think there's just something so incredible about the cinematography, the culture, the Middle Eastern like music influence. And there was just something that I really wanted to like kind of blend with also like the South Asian feel and like environment and kind of like emulate that in a way. So I also like pitched that idea to the director of it, and we storyboarded, and we decided that we were going to drive all the way to Outer Banks to film this. We filmed it on an iPhone and a gimbal. We had a very small crew of people, just me, the director, and the assistant director. And now we're really turning it into something that we can actually say that we're proud of. And I think that's just a great thing. Like just taking like a passion project, but at the same time, we don't want to just put anything out there. We want to make sure what we're doing, we're putting quality. And it's able to like really resonate even with total strangers. Like that's really the target audience. People that don't even know me, but what are they able to kind of get out of the story?
Moving because when I'm thinking about a spotlight on a person and truly seeing them, I see you as somebody that breaks limitations, and that's truly like encouraging. It's something to say, wow, that's a role model. That is somebody that deserves to be a leader of a platform and to be a representative of a group of people that need to be seen. And the fact that you have such a strong willed mindset and purpose behind your work, I think that that's absolutely incredible. And you're so welcome. When you look at the artist that you are today compared to the person who first started dreaming, what feels different about you?
I really like that. I really think it's honestly how far I've come with risk taking because that's something that I'm really starting to embrace is you have to be willing to invest in yourself before you even see the results. That's something that I really truly think to succeed in an industry like this where there is so much uncertainty is you have to believe in yourself so deeply, so fundamentally because your work is that important to you, right? It's coming from a personal place. And it's like you really love the process and the art in you, as opposed to you being the person in the art, if that makes sense. And that's just such a beautiful thing. And it's like just that commitment that a creative has to the art and where they're able to kind of take that in the journey. So it's all about embracing
Mhm.
that part of the process because you have no control over the outcome. But for me, what's most important is I don't want to have regrets and I want to look back on this and know that I gave it all. At the very least, like I could say that I was someone that was hardworking, driven, passionate, charismatic, and hungry. And that's something that I want to take with me. So it's very much a mindset thing of how far am I willing to go? When there's a will, there's a way.
What chapter of your story are you in right now? What would you name it if you had your script for your book?
I'm being really honest. I really think it's so fitting because that's how we met, right? Through the program. But like I genuinely believe embrace the journey.
Yeah.
I I really do think about that. Like I think that's what I'm starting to like realize, especially being a perfectionist who sometimes can be really fixated on the end goal, is you sometimes really got to take in the journey is the best part, right? Because it's just the excitement of like how much you're growing in this whole process, in the art, and what are all like just those mini steps that you're taking every day. Like it's the work that people don't see behind the screen, right? So they only see like what is considered like the overnight success, but it's like only you know how hard you worked towards your goals. So that's really what comes to mind is like, yeah, embrace the journey. And I can't talk more positively about just the program. Yeah, with Embrace the Journey, because truly that has opened so many doors for me in general with everything, with acting, just also like fundamentally like a mindset shift for me. So I really feel like I've really come to respect myself more as a creative as a result of
And those who are unfamiliar with Embrace the Journey, can you give just a quick little blurb about
it.
it?
Yeah, happy to do that. Yeah, so Embrace the Journey. It's an acting mentorship program led by Deion Smith, who is a working actor in shows like Outer Banks on Netflix, Will Trent on ABC, and he really hones in on the business, not the craft, because talent alone isn't enough. It's how are you able to package and present your materials in a way that's compelling, and it's hard to say no talent agents, managers, casting directors of the program. So being part of this program, but also being part of the admin team, I've really come to realize like that's what I want, like to find the next hidden talent among South Asian actors. And I want to bring them into this community because I feel like that's what we really need to see is like connecting people and actors and other creatives to the right people in the right rooms.
What I really appreciate about like my support system and especially my friends is they're always like they're on to the next big thing. So it's like even like yeah, like celebrate my wins, but they're already like kind of thinking about the next step. Like oh, I'm gonna see you in a movie premiere one day, or like when you win like Tribeca or Sundance, like these film festivals. Like it's just always there's that next goal that I'm being constantly stretched towards, and I love that. Like that's the kind of energy like I want to be surrounded by constantly. It's like the grind never ends.
No, no, it doesn't.
Yeah,
It doesn't.
gotta
When
aim
you start
high.
getting comfortable, you
Yeah.
need to shake it off and get
Yeah, you got to dream.
so
You got to be a little delusional. Yeah, you have to dream big because otherwise, it's kind of like like especially a lot of actors like they don't want to just be stuck in like the small roles. Like yeah, you need that to like break into it.
Oh, yeah.
But ultimately, it's like we have like a really specific goal. Like for me, it's like I want to be a series regular in like a cultural like indie art house film, but also horror because that's like a genre that's been really taking off lately. Like especially with like Backrooms, Obsession. So I'm kind of seeing a pattern here that like it's the psychological like horror space.
Well, and it's all new stuff. It's not old stuff that
Yeah,
they're beating
yeah.
to death.
It's like indie filmmakers, like they're taking it from YouTube to the big screens, and that's what motivated me. Like I remember like I was like thinking about that. Like I don't want to like sit around and just wait for auditions to get my opportunities. Like what if I just create my own opportunity?
How would you want to obtain more support on your initiatives that you're doing for culture and just for the arts in general?
I think like what's really important, especially like for creatives like starting out, is really it's just like that support, like even just like a reshare, a repost, like really just taking the time to actually like watch, like analyze, like critically kind of consume the art that like one is putting out. Like I feel like that really does go a long way. And it's like genuinely like it's like just that like small action, it ends up, you never know who it kind of gets out to, like just that gesture. it's like a social network, right? So like one person might know another, and then it might just end up like eventually down the road, like ending up in the hands of people that could be decision makers. So I really think like you just never know like where your work might take you and who might come across it. So I think for me, like that's really the biggest thing is that people are genuinely engaged with my work. Like it's not just like a click, like asking questions about it, like critically consuming. Like they're actually thinking really deeply about it.
I remember when I first joined and I didn't see a single person that looked like me. So I was thinking to myself, do I even belong here?
Before we close out, I'd love to ask just two more questions. One that's a little more personal. Outside of acting and business, how is Rhea taking care of Rhea?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is like creative burnout is a really real thing. And it's so important to, I think, like, you really have to like take that time for yourself and take your time celebrating the wins. Because that's the thing, especially for really ambitious creatives, is they're already thinking about the next thing, right? They're thinking about, okay, what's the next big thing that I can get? But it's like you have to really take in how far you've come, right? You have to look back at that and the growth that you've made and the accomplishments. And I think sometimes that can be overlooked. So for me, like that's really the biggest thing is I really have to sometimes sit down and like even though I have all these big goals, like I want to work opposite Jordan Peele one day. Like I want to be in a Monkey Butt Productions, right? I have these really ambitious goals, but I have to realize like I really only seriously got into like professional acting end of January this year.
Mm,
That's a little over 5 months.
wow,
So
yeah.
it's like that's the progress that I've made within 5 months. So you can only imagine, yeah, like the second I have momentum in my career, the second I get signed with an agent, second I start getting my first co-star role, like it's just gonna only go up from here. I
Hmm.
have to remind myself of that it's a marathon. At the end of the day, there's no point comparing because we're all on a different journey. So it's really just about what can I control? And I know that I'm doing my damn best.
Mm.
Like whatever I'm doing, like clearly it's working and I can only go up from here and I just need to keep it up and I just have to keep going because again, acting this industry, it rewards the people that stick around the longest.
Mm, that's so true. And I think speaking of the program, going back to Deion, he's
Yeah.
someone that is constantly talking about the power of putting your reps in and
Oh,
showing up consistently. And I think another way of saying it is just you will see the fruits of your labor as long as you keep sowing. You're gonna reap a harvest. You have to put the seed in the ground. You may not be able to control the weather, the rain, or the sun that helps it grow, but you can control what you plant and you are constantly sowing into your dream and sowing into your mission, and that is completely wonderful and beautiful and just amazing to see.
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There truly there's no shortcuts. Like I like to joke, it's like you can't get an Oscar for free. Like it's like you really can't. Like you have to sharpen your craft. You got to enroll in acting classes if you really want to keep up with the trends because now the standard has been increasing, right? When it comes to filming auditions more cinematically, like you want to be filming with more industry standard like camera equipment, for example. So it looks like they should look at you and be like, yeah, I could totally see you in a Netflix show, right? So that like the standard is rising now. Like we're seeing it's oversaturated, right? So it's like, how are you going to stand out and what are you willing to do to get there?
Mhm.
And it's not free and it will come with sacrifices, but it's all worth it if this is truly something you want to do. You have to earn it. You have to really put into it. So completely agree. Yeah.
Yeah. And usually our closing question is something along the lines of if you could leave the audience with this and what would you want them to know? But now I want to do something different with you. What is
Uh,
something that you wish more people knew about you?
I think for me, something that I'm also kind of like trying to figure out is because sometimes like I let the perfectionism, get the best of me. And something that I've been realizing this for a while, and especially today, is that I really do have a hard time with vulnerability. Like that is something that I'm still kind of figuring out. This is the side of acting that I do think people don't want to publicize. They want to publicize the wins, right? The moments where they're getting that like that big break, right? That big role. But for me, it's like I've had a lot of losses too, right? To get to those wins. And I think like that's something I would want people to know about me. I want people to see it all, right? Because that's all part of the journey. And it's like I want people to not only see that, but like what did I do in those situations? Because that's a true test of character. There are times where I could have easily just given up on this passion, right? But I kept going because it's like, do I want to swim or do I want to sink? And I wanna swim. So if like if it was like a whole like live documentary of that journey, I actually want people to see all of that. Like not just the pretty moments because that's not the full story. So that is something like for full transparency is like I'm still kind of working on that, but so much of acting is also being vulnerable. It's being human. It's not performing. And
Mm,
that is something that I am still figuring out, and I don't feel ashamed of that because I know that that is part of the journey, and I'm going to eventually embrace that, and vulnerability is not something that I need to protect myself from. If anything, vulnerability is actually a strength. It just means that you are showing up as an authentic actor.
you said that. Ooh, you're speaking to me, girl. You're speaking to me. You said that very, very well said, Rhea. And I hope that we can continue to document the journey, that this is just one step. And I'm looking forward to continuing to cover your story. When we got budgets, we're flying you in, we're sitting down, there's a live audience, we're planning the suits now. But you are absolutely incredible. You're brilliant and you're so wise. This was such an amazing highlight. And I
Yeah,
could say,
these are some great questions. Like
oh,
that's another thing. Acting is such an introspective process. And it's like you really have to sit with that and like think like, wow, like I'm doing a whole deep dive into myself. So I really appreciate this too. Like these questions and just being able to share that.
yeah, thank you so much. What we like to do is you got to take a bow because you did your thing. A little bow here, a little bow there. And we will conclude with blackout.